Okay, let's try one more take of this. In this video, I'm going to share how changing my breathing has changed my life. How learning to breathe less air using something called the Buteyko Method has transformed my health, helped me to recover from burnout, and made me feel amazing every day. So if you're struggling with burnout, or you're feeling exhausted, or you're just interested in breathing, then this is the video for you. Let's get into it. So 5 years ago, I was in a really bad place. I was burnt out, my nervous system was shot, I couldn't breathe or sleep properly. And even physical exercise, something that I'd always depended on, was beginning to fail me. Every time I did a workout, it made me feel worse. I was struggling to concentrate and I had really bad brain fog. I'd be hiding in the toilets at work, having a panic attack. And eventually I had to leave my job, like I couldn't even work. My life was in tatters. And what made things worse is that I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. No matter what I tried, it didn't seem to work. I saw different therapists, I changed my diet, I tried some different breathing exercises, and nothing was working for me. But what I did know is that all of this seemed to have something to do with my breathing. So when my breathing was better, I felt better, and when my breathing was worse, I felt worse. So there seemed to be a link there. And I read all the books that I could find on breathing, and I was really confused because a lot of them seemed to contradict each other. Some of these books were telling me to take big, deep breaths, to focus on puffing out my belly. And there were other books that I was reading that were telling me to breathe less, to not really breathe at all. And that was really confusing. Then one day I was on YouTube and I was just looking for ways to unblock my nose because my nose was all stuffy. And this was really on a separate subject. And I found some videos by this guy, Patrick McCowan, and he'd actually written some of the other books that I'd read. And he showed me this technique that I could use to hold my breath and it would help me unblock my nose. But what I noticed was when I started to unblock my nose that I started to feel better. But as it turned out, it wasn't just about holding my breath. There were these other breathing exercises. There was a breathing exercise called breathe light or reduced breathing. And it sounded pretty weird because it involved breathing less air. And so the first time I tried it, I just felt like I was suffocating and it just made me feel worse. So I gave up on it for a while, tried some other things, but it was always there at the back of my mind. So eventually I came back to Buteyko breathing. I ended up working with a couple of breathing coaches, and eventually I started to have breakthroughs. So one day I was sat at the dinner table and I was trying this breathing exercise that involved focusing on the breathing at my nose and imagining a feather under my nose. And the idea was that I would breathe less and I would hide my breathing so that if there was a feather under my nose, that it would hardly be moving. And I suddenly started to feel this enormous sense of well-being. I started to feel warmer. Suddenly the brain fog that I had just started to clear. Even my vision started to clear, just looking out into the garden. And the headache that I'd had was starting to subside. And I actually began to sweat. And I just had this moment of feeling like, finally, I'm on the right track. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't the whole story. The next time I tried this breathing exercise, it didn't work. It didn't have the same results. And so this was really frustrating. And for the next few weeks, I tried this breathing exercise on and off. I also tried some of the other variations of the breathe light exercise because there are quite a few different ones. And it was really hit and miss. So sometimes it made me feel better, sometimes it made no difference, and sometimes it made me feel even worse. And I eventually realized that it wasn't just about breathing, it was also about my nervous system. So if I did the breathing exercise in a way that activated my sympathetic nervous system, my fight or flight response, then it didn't work. But if I did it more gently and I slowed my breathing down and I had a parasympathetic response, my rest and digest response, then I started to get the benefits. And then the really exciting thing that I noticed is that as I started to get the hang of this breathing method, my overall health started to improve. And in Buteyko breathing, there's something called a control pause, which is really just a measurement, a specific type of breath hold. And that can measure your breathing health and also your overall health. And what I noticed was that as I was doing these breathing exercises and making other Buteyko lifestyle changes in my life, my control pause was increasing along with my health. So by this point, I was feeling really good, I was really excited, and that's when I decided that I wanted to train to teach Buteyko breathing. First of all, because I wanted to learn more about it, but also because I wanted to teach other people. And I now work with clients every day of the week, just on weekdays, not at the weekends, working with lots of different people, people with burnout, asthma, panic attacks, people with rhinitis, people with chronic fatigue and long COVID. And what I'm seeing is that as I teach them these breathing methods, it's not always easy, but we get there. By teaching them these breathing methods, it's changing their health and it's changing lives. So if you're thinking about Buteyko breathing, or you've noticed that you've got issues with your breathing or your health, then maybe give it a try. I'm going to give you a list of videos here. It's a little playlist, me guiding you through some different breathing exercises. And check down in the description for my website, and there you can find more information about Buteyko courses and one-to-ones. Thank you so much for listening, and I wish you all the best.